My dear friends, life becomes peaceful when we learn not just whom to love, but also whom to stay away from. Many people will come into your life, some to teach, some to test, and some to drain your peace completely. And for all the wonderful women listening today, intelligent, kind, and compassionate, remember this: when someone asks you to compromise your values, they are not asking for a favor, they are asking you to step away from the person you truly are. And in that single moment, a decision is made, a decision between temporary approval and lasting self-respect. Values are not rules written in a book. They are the invisible lines that define who you are when the world is not watching. Every woman, at some point in her life, faces that quiet test when someone close, maybe a friend, a partner, or even a colleague, says, "Just this once," and that "just once" becomes the soft whisper that tries to erase years of discipline, principles, and character. Think about it. A woman who stands by her values might seem strict, old-fashioned, or even stubborn to some people. But in truth, she is one of the rarest souls in the world. Because values are not convenient, they are courage in motion. To say no when everyone says yes takes strength that not everyone understands. You see, the world often admires confidence, but true confidence is built on consistency with your values. It's not about being perfect, it's about being true. Imagine a young woman at work who is told by her senior to manipulate a number in a report to make things look better. She knows it's wrong, she knows no one might ever find out, and yet she refuses. Her colleagues might laugh, her boss might get angry, and she might even face a loss. But she will walk home with a peace that no one can buy. Because peace comes not from avoiding problems, but from staying honest despite them. Or think of a woman in a relationship who's constantly pressured to behave in ways that go against her beliefs. To dress, talk, or act just to fit into someone else's expectations. She's told that love means compromise, but she knows that love without respect is just manipulation in disguise. And so she chooses to walk away, not because she doesn't care, but because she refuses to lose herself trying to be someone she's not. That's strength. That's real self-love. Not the kind you post online, but the kind you practice in silence when no one is watching. Values are like roots of a tree. They're invisible, but they're the reason you stand tall when storms come. And when you compromise them, you may look fine on the surface, but inside, your foundation begins to crack. The sad truth is, people who ask you to compromise your values are not really asking you to help them. They're asking you to join them in their weakness. They want you to make them feel comfortable in their wrong decisions. But your role is not to make wrong things right by participating in them. Your role is to stand firm, to be the quiet example of integrity in a noisy world. Let's be honest, integrity doesn't always feel rewarding at first. It can feel lonely. You might lose people. You might be misunderstood. But over time, something beautiful happens. The right people start to find you. The ones who value honesty, discipline, and authenticity will come closer, and the ones who don't, they'll fade away. That's how life filters people, through your values. It's easy to preach about strength, but real strength is shown in those simple, invisible choices you make every single day. when you return extra change to a shopkeeper, even though he didn't notice, when you keep a promise that no one remembers, when you refuse to gossip even when everyone else is. Those small moments define your moral character. Every no you say to temptation is actually a yes to your peace. Every time you protect your values, you protect your dignity. And remember, values are not about being rigid or judging others. They're about being accountable to your own conscience. The voice inside that tells you what's right or wrong is your purest guide. When you ignore it for too long, life becomes noisy, confusing, and heavy. But when you listen to it, life becomes lighter, simpler, and meaningful. Women who live by their values are like lighthouses. They don't chase ships. They simply stand firm and guide others through the darkness. Sometimes people will call you proud or unkind when you refuse to compromise. But there's a huge difference between pride and principle. Pride says, I'm better than you. Principle says, I'm better than who I was yesterday. So never apologize for having standards. You're not difficult. You're disciplined. You're not rude, you're real. You're not cold, you're clear. Every time you choose your values over validation, you are silently building a legacy of respect, not just for yourself, but for every woman who watches you. Your daughter, your friend, your younger colleague, they all learn from your example. When you walk with integrity, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. That's the ripple effect of strength. The truth is, people will forget your looks, your job, your success, but they'll never forget your character. The way you made them feel safe, respected, and inspired, that stays forever. So never let anyone convince you that your values are outdated. The world changes, technology changes, trends change, but values, they are timeless. They are the roots that hold humanity together. So the next time someone says, come on, just once, smile and say, no, not even once. Because your peace is worth more than their approval. Your self-respect is worth more than their validation. And your values, they are not just rules you follow. They are the story you tell the world without speaking a single word. When you protect your values, you protect your soul. And when a woman protects her soul, she becomes unstoppable, calm on the surface, unshakable within, and radiant in her strength. Time is the most precious gift we all have, yet it's the one thing people take for granted the most. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose a job and find another. But when time is gone, it never returns. Every second you give away is a piece of your life that you will never get back. That's why the kind of people you give your time to determines the quality of your life. There are some people who constantly demand your presence. They want your time, your attention, your energy. But when you need them, they suddenly disappear. These are the people who drain your soul and disturb your peace. You must learn the sacred art of saying no without feeling guilty. Because protecting your time means protecting your peace. Imagine a woman who always says yes to everyone, yes to her friends, yes to her boss, yes to family, even when she's exhausted. She rushes to help, sacrifices her rest, cancels her own plans, just to be available for everyone else. At first, people admire her kindness, but soon they start expecting it. Slowly, she begins to feel invisible, not because she's unloved, but because she's overused. She realizes that the people she's always there for rarely ask, "Are you okay?" They only call when they need something. And one day, she breaks down, not because she's weak, but because she never gave herself time to breathe. This is what happens when you give your time to those who don't value it. The truth is, people who constantly take your time without gratitude are not bad people. They're just unaware of your worth because you've trained them to believe your time is free. Time is not free. Time is your life. It's your energy, your peace, your purpose. You need to give it where it grows, not where it gets wasted. Guru Gopal Das often says, be available, but not always accessible, and it's such deep wisdom. Because availability shows kindness, but constant accessibility shows lack of boundaries. There's a difference between being helpful and being drained. You can't pour from an empty cup. When you keep saying yes to everyone, you slowly say no to yourself, no to your health, no to your peace, no to your dreams. Let's think of a real example. Imagine you have a friend who always calls you late at night, not to share joy or growth, but to complain endlessly about their life, the same problems, the same story, every night. You listen patiently, again and again, but the next morning you wake up tired, irritated, and mentally exhausted, and you realize you spent your emotional energy trying to fix someone who doesn't want to change. That's the cost of giving time without intention. Now picture another woman who has learned the value of her time. She still cares deeply, but she knows when to stop, when to rest, when to say, "I'll call you later." She understands that by protecting her time, she's not being selfish, she's being self-respecting. She gives her time to her family, her work, her growth, her health, her peace. And when people see her, they feel her energy, her calmness, her focus. Because she's not scattered everywhere, she's centered within. Respecting your time doesn't mean avoiding people, it means being intentional with people. You don't have to talk to 10 people a day to feel loved. Talk to one person who truly values your presence, and your soul will feel nourished. When you give your time to the right people, it multiplies in joy. When you give it to the wrong ones, it drains into emptiness. The world today celebrates being busy, but being busy is not the same as being productive. You can spend all day talking, scrolling, or helping, and still feel empty by night. Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what truly matters. And when someone keeps taking your time for meaningless things, they are not stealing your minutes, they are stealing your purpose. Think of how peaceful it feels when you spend time with someone who truly listens, who respects your presence, who values your words. Those are the people who deserve your time. You walk away from such conversations feeling lighter, happier, inspired. That's how you know your time was well spent, because it adds something to your life, not takes something away. But when you leave someone and feel tired, confused, or small, that's a sign your time was misused, and you must learn to protect it. Because life is short and your time is sacred. Every hour you spend is a piece of your legacy. Make sure it's spent on things that align with your peace and purpose. Some people will get upset when you stop being always available. They will call you selfish. But that's only because your boundaries inconvenience their comfort. Don't feel guilty for choosing peace over pressure. Remember, you are not a machine that runs on demand. You are a soul that needs silence, space, and rest. There's a beautiful truth. When you start respecting your time, the wrong people leave and the right people stay, because only people who truly care about you will respect your boundaries. They won't demand your time, they'll deserve it. And you'll find that as you stop giving your time away freely, your peace grows, your energy returns, and your life begins to move in harmony again. So, take a moment every day to reflect. Who am I giving my time to? Do they help me grow, or do they drain me? Do they add peace, or do they bring chaos? If the answer is the latter, it's time to step back. You owe it to yourself, because every minute you waste is a minute stolen from your dreams, your health, your happiness. Respecting your time is not arrogance. It's awareness. It's knowing that your life has purpose and your time is its currency. Spend it wisely and you'll build a life of meaning. Spend it carelessly and you'll wake up one day realizing you've lived for everyone but yourself. So choose peace over pressure, purpose over people pleasing, and balance over burnout. When you protect your time, you protect your power. And when a woman values her time, the world begins to value her too. Not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. There are moments in life when silence feels safer than speaking up. You tell yourself, it's okay, let it go. Even when something deep inside you knows it's not okay. You remain quiet because you don't want to hurt anyone, because you don't want to seem difficult, or because you fear being misunderstood. But over time, that silence begins to weigh heavy on your heart. You start carrying the burden of unspoken words, of things that should have been said but weren't. And the truth is, silence in the face of wrong doesn't bring peace. It brings pressure, it builds resentment, and it slowly takes away your voice. There's a difference between peace and suppression. Peace comes from resolution, suppression comes from fear. Many women confuse the two. They stay silent thinking it's strength, thinking it's patience, thinking it's kindness. But silence, when used to protect others at the cost of your own truth, is not strength, it's slow self-erasure. A woman's voice is her power, her light, her essence. It is not meant to be hidden behind fear or guilt. When you stay quiet, when you should speak, you teach others that your feelings don't matter. And the more you allow that, the more invisible you become, even in your own eyes. Imagine a woman in a meeting who has brilliant ideas, but stays silent because she fears judgment. She watches others speak up, sometimes even using her ideas, and get appreciated. Every time she stays quiet, she loses a little confidence. And one day, she realizes she's not silent because she doesn't have thoughts. She's silent because she stopped believing her thoughts are worth hearing. That's what happens when you silence your truth. You start doubting your own brilliance. Or think of a woman at home who endures constant disrespect, little comments, subtle dismissals, unfair expectations, and stays quiet to keep the peace. She tells herself she's being strong, but inside, she's shrinking. Her silence becomes a cage, and every day she loses a little bit of her spark. Because peace built on silence is not real peace. It's a performance. It's pretending everything is fine when it's not. And when you live pretending for too long, Your heart starts aching for honesty. Speaking up doesn't always mean shouting. It doesn't mean creating drama or conflict. It means standing with calm confidence and saying, "This is not okay," or "This is how I feel." It's about giving your emotions a voice instead of burying them. True maturity is expressing your truth with grace, not loudness but clarity. Sometimes your voice will shake, sometimes your words will come out messy, but that's okay. Courage is not about being fearless, it's about speaking even when you're scared. When you start using your voice, you'll notice how the world around you changes. People who genuinely care will listen, they'll adjust, they'll respect you more. People who don't will resist, get angry, or walk away. And that's a blessing, not a loss. Because your truth will always chase away what's not meant for you. The right people won't silence you, they'll celebrate you. The reason many people want you to stay silent is because your truth threatens their comfort. It forces them to look at themselves. It holds a mirror to their behavior. So they'll tell you things like, "Don't make it a big deal," or "You're overreacting." But you're not overreacting. You're reacting to being overlooked, dismissed, or disrespected for too long. Don't let anyone convince you that your emotions are too much. You are not too much. You are simply enough in a world that benefits from your silence. Think of all the great changes in history. Every movement, every reform, every revolution, they all began because someone decided to speak up. One voice broke the silence, and others followed. Your personal life is no different. Change begins the moment you start speaking truthfully. When you express your boundaries, when you communicate your feelings, when you refuse to stay silent about things that hurt your peace. That's when you begin reclaiming your power. And it's not just about speaking to others, it's about speaking to yourself. How many times have you ignored your own inner voice? That quiet whisper that says, "This isn't right for me," or "I deserve better." You silence it out of fear of losing people, but in doing so, you end up losing yourself. When you start listening to that inner voice, that small, still wisdom inside you, you begin to live more authentically. You start aligning your life with your truth. In daily life, using your voice can look like small, simple acts. Telling your friend you didn't appreciate a hurtful joke, saying no to something that makes you uncomfortable, speaking up in a meeting when you know you can add value, or even asking for help when you're struggling instead of pretending to be okay. These are not grand gestures, but they are revolutionary, because every time you speak your truth, you heal a part of yourself that was silenced before. Yes, sometimes speaking up will cost you. People may walk away, opportunities may fade, relationships might change. But silence will cost you far more. It will cost you your confidence, your clarity, and your peace. You might lose people when you speak your truth, but you'll find yourself. And that's a trade always worth making. A woman who uses her voice wisely doesn't just empower herself. She empowers everyone around her. She becomes a living example that kindness and courage can coexist. You can be soft-spoken and still strong. You can be gentle and still firm. You can be kind and still say no. Strength isn't in the volume of your words, but in the conviction behind them. So never let anyone make you feel guilty for speaking your truth. Your voice was not given to you to stay hidden. It was meant to inspire, to guide, to protect, and to lead. Every time you use it with purpose and love, you honor your own soul. Because the world doesn't change when people whisper, it changes when people speak. So the next time someone tells you to stay silent, smile and remember, silence might protect others, but your voice protects you. And when a woman starts speaking her truth, she doesn't just change her story, she changes the world around her, one word at a time. There will always be people who feel uncomfortable around your light, not because it blinds them, but because it reminds them of their own dimness. When you grow, when you shine, when you begin to rise with confidence and clarity, you will notice something strange. Not everyone will clap for you. Some will withdraw, some will criticize, some will try to make you smaller so they can feel bigger. And that's when you must remember, you were never born to shrink. You were born to expand, to evolve, to illuminate. The moment you start dimming your light to fit into someone else's shadow, you stop being true to who you are. It begins subtly. Maybe you achieve something, a promotion, an award, a new chapter in life, and someone close to you says, "Oh, you think you're better than us now?" Or maybe you express a dream, something that excites you, and they roll their eyes or say, "That's too much, don't aim so high." At first, you laugh it off. You tell yourself they're just joking, but their words linger. The next time, you hesitate before sharing your joy. You begin to play small, smile less, speak less, dream less, all to make others feel comfortable. That's how many brilliant, kind, powerful women begin to lose their spark, not because they weren't strong, but because they were too kind to keep shining when others felt insecure. But life is not meant to be lived half-heartedly. You cannot serve the world by pretending to be less than what you are. Think of the sun. It doesn't apologize for shining too brightly. It doesn't say, "Let me tone down my light because someone might find it too harsh." It rises every single day, consistent, radiant, unapologetic, and because it does, life continues. The same way, your light is not arrogance, it's purpose. You were meant to inspire by being your full self, not your edited version. Let's imagine a woman in her early 30s who has worked hard for her career. She's disciplined, passionate, and ambitious. But every time she talks about her goals, her partner dismisses her. "Why do you work so hard?" he says. "Relax. Life is not a competition." Slowly, she begins to question herself. Maybe she is doing too much. Maybe she should slow down to make others happy. But deep inside, she feels a fire, a whisper that says, "You're meant for more." One day, she decides to stop apologizing for wanting more. She pursues her passion unapologetically. The same people who once criticized her will later admire her strength. That's the irony of life. They mock you until they need your example. You see, people who truly love you will never ask you to shrink. They will cheer for you even when your success outshines theirs. They will celebrate your light because they understand that one person's brightness doesn't dim another's. But those who carry insecurity will try to limit you. They might not say it directly, but through sarcasm, through emotional manipulation, through subtle discouragement, they'll try to convince you that being bold, being confident, being yourself is somehow wrong. That's when you must stand firm and say, no more. Because shrinking yourself to make others comfortable is not humility, it's self abandonment. Think of a flower. It never compares itself to the one next to it, it simply blooms. A rose doesn't worry if the sunflower is taller, and the sunflower doesn't worry if the rose is more fragrant. They just bloom, each in their own time and beauty. That's how we are meant to live, not in competition, but in authenticity. The moment you start comparing or shrinking, you disconnect from your unique purpose. Many women, especially in environments where humility is misunderstood, are taught to tone down their confidence. Don't speak too much. Don't dress too boldly. Don't express too strongly. But confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is self-respect in motion. It is knowing that your existence has value and refusing to apologize for it. When you walk into a room with grace and clarity, you're not being too much, you're being real. And realness has power. There's something magnetic about a woman who refuses to shrink. She doesn't need to prove anything. She doesn't seek validation. Her peace, her power, her confidence, they all come from within. People feel it, even without her speaking. That's because she has made peace with her light. She knows that shining doesn't mean overshadowing others. It means giving others permission to rise too. Imagine your younger self, the little girl who used to laugh freely, dream wildly, and believe she could do anything. She didn't care if people thought she was too loud or too confident. She was pure, untamed light. Somewhere along the way, the world taught her to dim it. Be quiet, be nice, don't stand out. But that little girl is still inside you, waiting for you to let her shine again. When you decide to stop shrinking, you reconnect with her. You give her wings again. Never feel guilty for your growth. When you evolve, some people will no longer fit. That's okay. You're not supposed to drag everyone with you. Some relationships are only meant for one chapter of your story, not the entire book. Don't hold yourself back because others choose to stay where they are. You're not leaving them behind. You're just moving toward the person you were always meant to become. When people say you're too much, what they really mean is you can't be controlled. When they say you've changed, it means you've grown beyond the limits they set for you. And when they call you intimidating, it means you've stopped tolerating disrespect. So wear those labels with pride. They're proof that you've stepped into your strength. The world doesn't need smaller women. It needs women who stand tall with kindness in their hearts and fire in their souls. Women who shine so brightly that they inspire others to do the same. You don't have to hide your light to be accepted. Those who belong with you will never fear your brilliance. They'll be inspired by it. So don't shrink, don't dim, don't apologize. Walk into every space knowing you deserve to be there. Speak your truth with grace. Celebrate your victories without guilt. Because your light isn't just for you. It's for every woman who's still learning to believe that she, too, deserves to shine. Forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood acts of strength. People often think that forgiving someone means allowing them to hurt you again, that it means you should welcome them back as if nothing happened. But true forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the same pain. It means healing from it. It means freeing yourself from the burden of anger, but not reopening the same wound. When someone asks for your forgiveness, but continues to repeat the same behavior, they're not sorry, they're comfortable. They've learned that your heart is soft enough to forgive and your memory gentle enough to forget. But love and forgiveness should never be used as tools for manipulation. In life, you'll meet people who hurt you, intentionally or unintentionally. And they'll apologize when they see you pulling away. At first, their words sound sincere. They might say, "I'll change," or "I didn't mean to." And for a while, you believe them. You open your heart again. You trust again. But then, slowly, the same patterns begin to appear. The same disrespect, the same lies, the same neglect. And you find yourself in the same cycle, wondering how you ended up here again. The truth is, an apology without change is not growth. It's a performance. It's a way to keep you close while avoiding accountability. Imagine a woman who's been in a friendship where she's always giving her time, her understanding, her support. But whenever she needs something, her friend is suddenly too busy. When she tries to express how she feels, her friend says, "I'm sorry, I'll do better." But nothing changes. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and the same selfishness continues. Over time, she begins to realize that the apology was never meant to rebuild the friendship. It was meant to reset her tolerance. So one day, she quietly decides to walk away, not in anger but in peace. Because real forgiveness doesn't mean allowing people to repeat the same behavior. It means choosing yourself when others refuse to change. When someone repeatedly hurts you, your heart becomes tired, not because it stopped loving, but because it's exhausted from repairing what keeps getting broken. You begin to understand that forgiveness is not about giving them another chance. It's about giving yourself freedom from their hold. You can forgive them in your heart and still decide not to invite them back into your life. That's not bitterness. That's boundaries. It takes courage to walk away from people you care about. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't forgiving them. It's accepting that they'll never be who you hoped they would be. But when you do, you reclaim your peace. You stop begging for change and start creating it for yourself. The most peaceful women are not the ones who never get hurt. They are the ones who refuse to let hurt define their lives. Think about the pattern of people who apologize often but never improve. At first, their words soothe you like a gentle bandage on a wound, but without action, that wound never heals. It stays open, getting deeper each time. You start losing trust not only in them but also in yourself, in your ability to make the right choices. But once you realize that forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation, everything changes. You learn to forgive people from afar, to let go of the pain without reopening the door. You begin to understand that peace doesn't come from fixing everyone. It comes from knowing when to walk away with grace. In everyday life, we see this in so many forms. A friend who keeps gossiping despite promising to stop. A partner who keeps lying despite saying they've changed. A family member who keeps taking advantage of your kindness even after multiple chances. At some point, you must ask yourself, am I forgiving or am I enabling? Because there's a thin line between compassion and self-neglect. You can have a big heart and still have firm boundaries. You can wish someone well and still keep them out of your life. Forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It's not about making them feel better. It's about releasing yourself from the emotional prison of resentment. Carrying anger poisons your peace, but allowing repeated hurt poisons your self-worth. The real art of forgiveness is learning to let go while still protecting your heart. It's the ability to say, I release you from my bitterness, but I also release myself from your chaos. When you forgive, you take back control of your emotions. You stop waiting for closure from people who will never give it. You stop expecting honesty from those who thrive on confusion. You stop letting someone else's immaturity decide your happiness. That's when you begin to live freely. It's not easy, of course. Walking away from someone you love after the 10th apology hurts more than staying. But every time you allow someone to hurt you again, you teach them how to treat you. The cycle continues until one day, you realize your peace is more valuable than their promises. So you quietly start building distance, not out of hatred, but out of self-respect. And that's when true forgiveness begins. When you forgive them and free yourself at the same time. There's a silent kind of strength in women who forgive but don't return. They carry no bitterness, no revenge, only wisdom. They understand that some people are lessons, not lifelong companions. They learn that closure doesn't always come in the form of a sincere apology. Sometimes it comes in the moment you stop needing one. When you reach that level of peace, your energy changes. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending your decision to walk away. You stop waiting for change from people who are committed to staying the same. You forgive, but you don't forget. Not because you hold grudges, but because you've learned. And learning is how you protect your heart. So if someone keeps asking for your forgiveness, but never changes their behavior, take it as a sign, not of their love, but of their comfort in hurting you. Don't mistake persistence for care. Real love shows itself in consistency, not apologies. The moment you understand that, you stop chasing promises and start choosing peace. Forgive, but move on. Love, but let go. Release them, but never lower your standards again. Because forgiveness without change is not kindness, it's self-betrayal. And you, dear woman, were not born to live in cycles of pain. You were born to rise above them, to walk with grace, and to find peace not in their return, but in your own healing.